Welcome. I'm Valentina Thörner. You may take a seat. I'm the Empress. My daughter is the princess. We are working on a dynasty here. So I'm Empress of Remote. That's why I wear a tiara. I have an entire tiara selection, actually. But I'm not going to talk about the tiara selection. I'm going to talk about distraction management. And I'm sorry if I traumatized anyone by putting on Baby Shark yet again. That was my pandemic. So, but how do I get to distraction management? Because that's not a topic that we talk about a lot in leadership or in productivity at all. So, back in the day, like 10 years, don't tell anyone, ago, I worked as a productivity coach. And I worked with leaders and with anyone who wanted to get more things done. I was amazing at that. I got everything done. Inbox zero, to-do list at the end of the day. You get those little gold stars at to-doist if you do, I don't know how many tasks. I was absolutely killing it. And then 2016 came, and this happened. So I had kids, 2 of them, twins. And as you can see on one of those photos, you can breastfeed and answer emails. However, having those tiny little humans around me most of the time was a little bit more distracting than I had anticipated. Because they need attention all of the time. You need to keep them alive. It's kind of a full-time job. And they don't tell you that. Of course, they tell you it's stressful and you won't sleep, etc. But I mean, I know better, I thought. So what do you do in that situation, apart from putting those little beds into the storage behind you so that you can put the kids away while you're on a conference call and still look very productive, which only works when they're sleeping? You will go back to theory. You look at all the books, everything that you've studied, because I was sure that the problem was me. I probably missed something very, very crucial in all of these books. So I went back to the books. And these are the 10 most important, influential, whatever books on productivity if you ask Google, ChatGPT, or whomever you trust these days. So if you look at these books, what's standing out there is they were all written by male white authors with no kids, or with kids and a wife who takes care of the kids. So maybe getting a wife to take care of the kids would have been my solution. So I realized that actually they had a big advantage over what I was trying to do because they had full control over the time and the space that they were trying to be productive in. And it's very important. It's like the time component. They could just put aside 2 hours, 3 hours a day, or whatever hours a day to actually get into their stuff. And they could design their space the way that they wanted this space to work for them. Because on average, every interruption costs you 15 minutes. If you've ever tried to work with a 6-year-old in the room, forget it. You don't get 15 minutes to get back into anything. So the problem then was not productivity methods, and there was no productivity method in this entire world that would set this right for me. The problem was distraction. I needed to focus on distraction. How can I get distraction, maybe not out of my life, but actually out of my current reality? And the thing with managing distraction is I'm sharing now some things that I have learned, but even if you don't have kids or you don't have any distractions in your life, in which case I really envy you, you probably have people working in your company that do have to manage distractions. So even if you don't have kids, you might learn a thing or two from what's coming next. So, oh, wait. Oh, you want me to ask them to take a photo? For you? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I will do. So, my daughter has told everybody at school that her mom is famous. And her friends have said that is not true, she wasn't on the news. So I told her, but I will be on the internet. So feel free to make photos of me and use that hashtag and put it on the internet so I can tell my daughter that she's famous. And when you're taking out your phone, use that code and answer those questions there. And we're going to do a slide takeover now so that we will be able to see actually the results on screen. I'm really happy that QR codes actually now kind of work. And somebody up there has to put the Slido thingy on here. There we go. Dogs, kids, Slack, okay. 13-month-old twins. It does get better. I can promise that. Babies, phone notifications, dogs in the home office, other people. I hear you, especially for the introverted among us. Other people and open floor offices are the worst. Laundry. The laundry, that's interesting. That's for the people who work from home and who have this, oh, I should be doing this. Lawnmower work, oh wow, I love this. Baby crying, outside noise. Clutter. I just decluttered my desk last week. There's actually a before and an after photo on LinkedIn. And the most popular comments on my before photo was that my photo was creating anxiety in people, even though they didn't have to work on that desk. Squirrels. That's somebody who's probably in Cambridge. Unsolicited calls, team member questions, team questions. Okay, you do need this talk. There's a lot of distractions going on in your life. Okay, cool. Thank you very much for sharing that. We won't go into all of these, but if there's a specific one you have questions about, you come to me afterwards and I'm going to help you solve it. So all of these distractions, we can actually divide them into two different ones. There's an internal distraction and then there are external distractions. Internal distractions, they happen in your head. I mean, they're still real, but kind of you have to figure them out. And then there are external distractions which happen outside you. This is a picture from last summer while the kids were on summer break and I was trying to get some work done. Puzzles work for 10 minutes or so, which is exactly enough to get back into work before the next question comes around. So we're going to start with the external distractions because external distractions are kind of easier to solve. Not easier, but they are easier to also to delegate or to look into finding something else. So external distractions. There was this study which in my brain will forever be called the secretaries eat cookies studies. I asked ChatGPT, there was this study about secretaries eating cookies, and it turns out it is a study from 2006, completely blanking on the people who did it, probably two white males. They put Hershey Kisses on top of the receptionist desks and measured how many Hershey Kisses these secretaries actually ate. And then they put the same bowl of Hershey Kisses into a cupboard 6 feet away and measured how much they ate. And what happened is that these people ate 2.5 more Hershey Kisses when the Hershey Kisses were just one hand, the arm span away. And the study was called Environment Matters because we actually get a lot of cues from our environment as what to do and what not to do. So the most immediate result of that study is that my chocolate stash now lives on top of the fridge on the far side where I actually have to take a chair to get there. Because that means I get that critical moment of, do I really want to eat that chocolate or am I just bored? And I can use the chocolate to actually kind of bribe myself to do things. So this study tells us that we can hack our environment in a way that we either don't realize that there is a distraction or we move the distraction out of our basically visually and olfactic and whatever sight we have. So how do we do this? We analyze the distractions. So first, how is this thing distracting us? There are two types of distraction. There is the directly my daughter in ghost form walking on stage and asking me a question distraction, which is kind of very obvious. And then there's the small distractions, like a seed that doesn't belong there, and it's nagging in the back of your brain, and you're trying to think about whether distraction is actually a thing, and whether this is a seed on purpose there, or whether, and I just lost you. So those are the smaller kind of distractions. So once you know how you're being distracted, you look at where does this happen, in terms of where am I when this happens, and when does it happen, to see if you can find a pattern. And this works a lot better if we're looking at examples. So we're going to look at kids first, for obvious reasons. So how do kids distract you? Kids distract your productivity when they are in the vicinity of your productivity. Them being there will disrupt you. Wherever you are and the kids are. Like there's a very clear correlation between the presence of kids and them disrupting your productivity. And when, well, like in the kids example, it basically all can be summed up in one scream internally that happened about 2 weeks ago, which was like, can you just give me 5 minutes so can finish this presentation and send it over to Kirk? Because he needs it. So how do we solve this? That's the more interesting question. Number one, the best solution is do not have kids. I know this comes a little bit too late for some of you, including myself. In which case, the second best option is get a divorce and let him or her take 100% custody. Because in that case, you're only on the hook every other weekend. And if you then move far away, not even that. Okay, not popular, good. The other option is to get a divorce and insist on 50-50 custody. Never get the custody all by your own, then you're really screwed. Get 50-50, and that way you get 1 week off, 1 week on. Okay? No? Okay. There are other options. So the other thing is to actually take advantage of or create systems around you that can take the kids away while you want to be productive. And I know this is not a very popular thing to say when you're a mom, but school was invented so you can work. School was invented so that kids grow up to be well-rounded human beings. And you can work. And the same goes for after-school activities, summer classes, and grandparents. Or single friends who don't have kids but would love to have kids, so you can give them your kids so they are happy and you're happy too. So with kids, basically organize your kids away, as harsh as that sounds, and for summer break, I can tell you, your kids are going to learn a lot more in Starship summer camp than with you at home, being bored out of your brain because you cannot answer one more. What do I know about astronauts anyway? Like, just learn it from somebody who's really passionate about the topic. Of course, if you just need an hour, you may use the tablet. You have my permission to give your kids an age-appropriate video or game and have a break for an hour to get something done. Like, that's also important for your mental health. Just don't watch the thing with them, because that will mess with your brain. Notifications, another example. Now, if you've solved kids' notifications, like this is trivial, you can leave your phone outside of your room for 8 hours and no one's going to sue you. So just switch those notifications on. But if we go through the process, like how does it distract you? Most of the time when there's a notification and I look at my phone, I'm at the end of Instagram and 3 hours have passed. And I still haven't read the notification. So the how, it's not even the notification, it's the notification bringing me to my phone. Where does it happen whenever I have the phone with me? And when? The when actually doesn't depend on me, it depends on somebody else triggering something on my phone. So the best thing for me is to get the thing out of my reach. Practical examples here is like, set your phone to black and white. Instagram and TikTok are very boring in black and white. Like it really reduces the dopamine hit. So that's a hack that I can really recommend. Get rid of all the notifications except when the school calls, or your parents call, or my brother calls. So like there are some exceptions. And have very clear rules for yourself when you're going to be in arm's reach of that phone or when not, because that's the thing. You cannot hack your brain. Like you cannot just try harder. I'm going to try really, 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 really hard not to look at my phone today. Good luck. You'll last until 11 a.m. maybe. But if you put the phone away, then you don't have to use your willpower muscle, and you can actually use that to negotiate whatever you need to negotiate in your day. So make sure that whatever is distracting you, if you can get it not out of your life, but out of your productive hours, that you can do it. Because the distractions, they'll still be there. Like the notifications aren't going anywhere. And even if you miss them, if it's important, shit floats, it will come again. And finally, cravings. And this is like the grumbling stomach, which is debatable whether this is internal and external, but very often it's triggered by something out from the outside, like your neighbor making coffee and not inviting you over. I know, how inconsiderate. So cravings or bodily functions, there's a good question first about, is it a want or is it a need? And there we do what we do with kids. Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Have you slept enough? And if you are our age group, are you creaky? Which means you look like this and it just does. That means you probably need to stretch. So if you have eaten and you have had water and you are rested, all of these things will probably go away. If you analyze when this happens, you will see patterns. Every day at 3 p.m., I get really, really tired. You can schedule in a coffee before your 3 p.m. meeting. Or if you live in Spain, a siesta. Why not? In which case, you might want to sign up your kids for after-school activities so that you actually can get stuff done before the day comes to an end. Or if you always get a headache in the afternoon when you go to the co-working space because you forget your water bottle at home, the solution is not really rocket science. Put a reminder at the door and take your water bottle with you. So make sure that you don't forget that your amazing brain lives within a body. And our bodies are amazing, but not really good at maintaining themselves unless the brain is actually involved in this maintenance. So make sure that if you know you forget to eat, if you know you forget to drink water, if you know to forget to leave the house in 5 days, never has happened, that you schedule this into your day so that you actually do it. So, and that's the thing, I've just taught you like a couple of things that you can do to get rid of those distractions or solve for those distractions, which means you can learn it, which means you can teach it to your people. And how do you teach these things? You teach them through setting guardrails that help them to do the right thing. That's a little bit the same with kids. Sometimes you just make rules and expect them to follow the rules, and because you know that then things will turn out well. So in your company, you have actually 2 ways to implement this, helping your people to be less distractions. One is operational distraction management, which is setting up a system that reduces distraction by default. And the other one is people-based, which is where you work with the individual people one by one, because we are all snowflakes. These are some examples for the operational ideas that you can do. If you know that people are very easily distracted by laundry, send them to work to a co-working space, somewhere where the day-to-day of their home lives cannot interfere with the hours that they are working for you. And the co-working allowance, which can be sign them up for a co-working space or tell them that you're going to pay for the coffee at the local coffee shop, can like make all the difference there. You can do meeting-free days, and this is an operational thing, because if I want to do my meeting-free days on Wednesdays and you want to do them on Fridays, that's a problem. So it's better if you operationally say for the entire company, no meetings on Wednesdays and Fridays. Which also makes the meeting space within the week a lot scarcer, so suddenly people actually do more meetings that matter instead of just calling a quick meeting because the time is there. So putting these restrictions in place can actually really help. Slack etiquette. Answer in threads. There's a reason threads were invented. Don't push everything into the big channel where everyone is going to be interrupted. Have a lot of channels for non-work related conversations. My favorite channel at a past company was plant parents. We were only 5 people, but whenever I bought a new pothos, they were ecstatic without me having to interrupt all the other 120 people in the company. And if you're in an office, you can give everybody these, you know, these little availability flags, or these flags that in the US they put on the post office, or the post box, so you can say if somebody's there, somebody's not there. You can get those for your monitors. And then people can say, you may talk to me or you may not talk to me. It's really helpful in like reducing the whole other people are interrupting me thing. But it needs to be something that is known to everyone. You cannot just decide to use this and then everybody, like no one else will know what's happening there. And on the individual level, you have like mental health day, vision reminders, KPIs on an individual level, employee coaching to help them to be more productive. Those things will come out of having one-on-ones with your individual employees. So one thing is, can you put the Hershey Kisses 6 feet away? And the other thing is, can you have them read the label of the Hershey Kisses and they're never going to read one again when they've seen the ingredients? So this is how you can influence it on a company level and on a personal level. Which brings us to the internal distractions, because a lot of those personal ones are, of course, internal ones. And internal is a lot more difficult because it basically requires learning about yourself, having self-awareness, and actually figuring out what is it that works for me, and as a leader to understand what works for me actually might not work for you because you have different circumstances in your life, different experiences in your life, different needs. So what you can do as a leader, honor your one-on-ones. Seriously, if you have reports, I expect you to have a one-on-one with each of your reports at least every 2 weeks. If you don't have that, write that down and schedule them for starting next week. Because this is the one place within your company where you can create this personal connection so that other people can tell you what their problems are with distraction management. And then if you know what distracts them, you can actually help them solve that. But you won't find that out in a survey. You won't find that out just by reading random Slack messages in a big channel or by overhearing them in the hallway. I haven't worked in an office for 15 years. Everything what I say about an office is pure hearsay. But apparently people speak in the hallway. So honor those one-on-ones, do them, and have them not to be just about work, but also about work adjacent things. You do your one-on-ones, and you make sure that all the managers in your company also do their one-on-ones. But you are the one, you have to be the example, because you're at the top, and people will always emulate what happens at the top. Take that time off to recharge. Distraction often means that our brains need a break. So give your brain that break. Go on vacation, take that mental health days. Go on parental leave. Leave at 5 o'clock to go to your daughter's choir recital. Leave early because your child has to go to this birthday parties, and take your earplugs with you. Like, seriously, you'll thank me later. But take the time off and take it off visibly. Put it in your Slack status. Tell your people, I am leaving early because I'm doing something with my family, and I know this is important because then they will interrupt me less during my workday while they have their vacation. And model that behavior. Model that you have family. Model that you have friends. I mean, I hope you have friends. Otherwise, like, talk to the person sitting next to you and start a friendship. Model that you have hobbies. Model to your people that it's absolutely fine to be engaged in things that are not just work, because distraction management is nice, productivity is even better, but having a life tops both of them. And you will be more productive and less distracted if you actually have a balanced life. And you will want that for your company as well, because where do you think new ideas come from? If we all read the same 10 books about productivity, there will be no new ideas in this world. We need to get insights from outside. And yeah, we need you to make sure that that actually happens. Thank you very much, and I think we have time for questions. Yeah, and you can find me on these. It's easier to send me a LinkedIn message than an email because I have silenced email notifications, but not LinkedIn notifications.
Sensible. Okay, questions. Rich at the back to kick off.
Thanks. Those of us who have children really appreciate the points you made. I'm back to Slack for a minute, which I hate, and thinking about the sort of setting up the standards or ethic that says whether you're supposed to be on Slack every moment of every day and respond to every Slack message before it gets more than 60 seconds old, or what do we do about that?
Okay, so it depends a little bit. You can have different rules for different channels. One of the things that if you want to avoid people being on Slack all the time and to honor productivity and lower distraction, you will want to avoid that. Have an official company policy. It's like you have to answer a DM within 6 hours, within 24 hours, within 3 hours, whatever works for your company. And I recommend to experiment with these things. I would say you have to answer them, for example, within 24 hours. Running the risk that something might break that is actually like very, very important. And then you can maybe adjust it on position. In my experience, even if you say you have to answer within 24 hours, it reduces the pressure on people to answer, but no one is going to take 24 hours. Like people will still answer within an hour or two. Together with this, make it very clear that it's fine for people to close down Slack. I know, like, this is absolutely mind-blowing, but you can close the app. Like, you can completely close the app, then you don't even know to manage any notifications. You just close it down, and you can tell people, hey, 2 hours a day, please close your Slack app and get real work done. Because Slack is like the #1 interrupter if it's not used particularly well. Teach people how to mute Slack notifications. You can be in all the channels. That doesn't mean you need to read all the channels. It's absolutely fine to mute the channels that you then go on Friday and just read the back scroll if you're interested, because if your ad mentioned, you'd get a notification anyway. But very often it comes down to what are the rules in terms of Slack etiquette that you want to put in place for your company, communicating these very clearly, especially for new joiners. And whenever somebody asks a question that is already documented somewhere, ask them, have you already searched the knowledge base? I know it's a little bit passive-aggressive. But the idea is that people search first and ask second. So by writing this down and saying, this is what we expect from you. You're all adults here. Like, you know how to search a knowledge base. Do this first and then come to Slack. That reduces a little bit the amount of clutter that is coming into Slack. Be upfront with your rules, and you can make those rules. This is not a democracy, this is a company.
More questions? Daniel.
All right, so this one's on the internal side, which it's okay to say that is in your head and there's nothing I can do to help you. I get that. One of the things I find most distracting will be something important's going on in the background. I've got an email about a big negotiation tomorrow, or someone I really, really don't want to lose has handed in their notice. Those kind of things, and it means that I go into the next meeting, no, I'm thinking about that email, and I'm still doing it in the next meeting, and I find it very hard to move on from that thing that's a priority for a reason. Is there anything you can do, you can suggest for that level of internal distraction?
So usually we keep things in our brains are very bad at storing information. So like we put 7 things in, and when the 8th information comes in, the first one like disappears. And that's why when something really important comes up, we're like constantly like putting it into the last slot, because we need to be sure that we don't forget about it. To circumvent that is to write it down and put it somewhere where your brain knows you cannot forget about it. Because actually what you want to solve is your brain being on overdrive because it wants to forget. What works for me is writing it down and putting on the inside of the fridge. I know this is not the most logical place to put it, but it's a place where I will never ignore a Post-it note, and it's a place where I am going to look for dinner when I'm starting to go on dinner with it, and then I move it to my computer. So when I go back to my computer when the kids are in bed, it's the first thing that I see. But like find a place where you know that you're going to see it, and then your brain can let go of it for the meeting. And you might have to experiment with different places, or whether you write it down on your computer, or whether you write it down in a special really nice notebook or something. Experiment with it, because that's the other thing about like hacking how you set up your own system. There is a lot of experimenting going on. Just because something doesn't work on the first time doesn't mean it doesn't work for you. You might have to tweak it, and you probably will have to tweak it. Like, it took me a long time to find the fridge hack, but it works pretty well.
I thought that was like an anti-snacking one as well, because like...
Anti-snack things on fridges never work.
No, but if you've got the really important thing you've got to do on the inside the fridge, then I'm not going to be going to the fridge to be reminded of it.
Then I get the snack only after doing the thing. That's actually a good hack too.
How do you deal with kind of individuals who are perennial distractors within the organisation?
Oh, who distract you?
Yeah. Not naming any names.
Have you talked to them about the fact that they are distracting you? Have you given them clear guidelines as to when they are allowed to talk to you and when they're not allowed to talk to you? Yeah, okay. You might want to give them office hours.
Let's imagine they wouldn't listen. Or understand.
No, what is something is like, look, I know you have a lot of questions, and I love that you have a lot of insights for me, and like I really appreciate that you're so involved with this business. I also, and never say but, because if you say but I also, they only hear that you don't want to listen to them. And I also need to get a lot of things done today, so I have reserved this hour for just the 2 of us at the end of the week. Can you write down everything that you'd like to discuss, and then we can sit down together and you get all my attention on this hour, because I don't want to be just half as hearing to you now. So let's move this to a time when we can both be present.
It's great. Where are we?
Hi, I don't have kids. I don't think I want any after this presentation. But I have worked with female colleagues who have had kids, and they report into a male manager who doesn't have kids. And I've had feedback from them that they find it difficult to communicate how distracting it is as mothers, and probably fathers as well, but in my case this is mothers, to communicate that to a line manager that doesn't really understand and can relate. What would be your advice to that?
Do a bring your kids to work day if you're in an office, and put the play thingy into the office of the line manager, and tell the kids if they have questions, they can talk to Uncle John. Like, it sounds like a joke, but it works. Because the thing is, it's very difficult to explain to someone how disruptive it is. So making them live through it, which in office is of course a lot easier, is kind of the most effective way to do it. And the other thing is to really sit down to that person and tell them, okay, I want you to work on this project. This is an experiment. I want you to work on this project for an hour. I'm going to ask you a random question every 10 minutes. This is just an experiment, just to see how you do it. And then you ask them, so are there more stars than sand grains? What the fuck? Okay, no, you go back and work on your talk. Okay, is orange the same as red? Because it's just light red in reality. Yeah. Color theory, and then like, it is really interesting because after the hour you ask that person, so how was that experience? And like really set it up like a lab experience. Don't tell them that this is about children interrupting you. Tell them that you are working on a new productivity, whatever, always works. And then you can debrief them, and they debrief say like, this is what happens if you have children around you. Because they have all of these questions, and they're basically wiring their brains, and they need your input to wire their brain. So answering these questions is actually not something that you should do on the side, but it's actually part of their upbringing, part of their brain development. And as a mother, you have a vested interest in your kids having a developed brain. So to kind of create that empathy, because unless you have lived through these interruptions, it's very, very difficult to empathize with this. And otherwise sit on with the line manager and say, hey, you need to be a little bit more patient because reality.
What happens if that results in your line manager going, oh, I just don't think I'm going to employ mothers?
This comes down, I think, to company culture. Because if somebody gets defensive or doesn't want to work with mothers because all of these disruptions, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, those disruptions aren't really helpful. And I do understand companies who say we don't want to have mothers here because they always leave at 5 and we do our best to work between 5 and 7. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. On the flip side, it's like explaining to people that one thing that you learn as a mother is prioritizing the heck out of everything. Because you have very limited time, you have a lot of pressure, like it's the best executives I know are mothers. Because they have learned to solve things, like you have a bleeding child and the other one is running over there, and then another mother is coming over and it's like, oh, but your child hit my child first. And so you are de-escalating while you're also trying to calm down someone else and fixing the playground. So all of these things, like these are transferable skills. So making sure that the line manager also explains, well, you felt very disrupted by all these interruptions. And she does too, but she's still doing good work, and you didn't do nothing in this hour where I was interrupting you all the time. It's kind of a balancing act.
If a company does that, as Joel Spolsky used to say, give me their stock ticker so I can short them.
I don't disagree at all. I mean, I goes back to the earlier talk about some people on boards with 80s mentalities. I think it's an important conversation to have. Mm-hmm. I don't disagree at all. Who's next? I know we've got Bob, we've got Nitin, we've got Wayne. Katia.
Don't ignore the women.
May I ask a question? It's actually in line with what you've just said, Mark. On this opposite case, when you have a coworker who has to stay because another one with kids has to constantly leave earlier, and they cannot take a lot of time away from work, and they take a lot of sick leave, and the other one has to do the job all the time, like more. So what would be the recommendation to the line managers or bosses how to deal with this situation?
That is actually not a personal problem. That's a structural problem. So why is the company set up so that people have to stay longer in the first place? Why is work not set up in a way so that everybody, because I mean, I have kids, but maybe you have a dog and my neighbor needs to get home because their parents need help. So it's like having kids, it's just the most visual thing that can interrupt you, and it's one of the things where if I say I have to leave early because I have kids, I feel horrible about that because I know I'm being judged for leaving my job. If I tell them I'm staying late because my partner is picking up the kids, I'm being judged too because I'm a horrible mom staying at work while my kids are being sick. So it's kind of, the individual can't do a lot of it, but if as a company, and that's where you as leaders and examples come in, if you leave every day on 5, even though you don't have kids maybe, that sets a really good example that you want work to get done And when it's done, it's done. You don't have to sit here and warm the seat just to show that you are a better worker than the others who don't have the privilege to be able to stay longer. So, and I think there's something that we kind of need to shift in the work culture in general. Do we really need 40 hours between 9 and 6 with 1 hour? Can it not be a little bit more flexible so that we can accommodate different realities and different attention spans?
I hope this is the note to all bosses.
So I just want to build on that point, because one of the things we've been doing in the States with some companies is helping them redesign the work to fit the people. And so what you start to realize is the employment situation has changed, where before there was more people than there were work. But in the last 10 years, there's actually more work than there are people. And employees hire companies more than companies hire employees. And so part of this is to realize, if you really study how job descriptions are made, they're made up. They're literally wish lists. They're the ideal candidate. And the reality is there's trade-offs. And so what you start to learn is, how do we reshape the work to fit the people? And when you do that, all of a sudden, I don't need 9 to 5. I need to get this done in this time frame. And you start to realize you can actually redesign this thing. But most people don't feel like they can ask to redesign the work. And that's where I think the agency to ask those things are what's really, really important. Your thoughts on that?
I think every company, once a year, should sit down, look at how we work, and think about, does this still serve the purpose that we're trying to solve here? And if not, do something different. And at least once a year, you should try something new. So I worked at a hybrid company before the pandemic started, and we just had planned an empathy challenge, because some of the people were fully remote, but some of them went to the office in Tallinn, and we had planned an empathy challenge to send everybody home for a week just to see what breaks if there was no office. The pandemic happened that week. I promise it wasn't me, but it really worked. The company is now fully remote. But this was like, for us, of course, it felt like a planned experiment because we had planned for that. The same goes with okay, this summer we are going to try a 4-day work week and see if this works. Or this summer we are going to try that people can work whenever they want. So if you want to have a split day, like during the pandemic, I did split days. I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, work until 9, then the kids would wake up. Then I would work another 2 hours between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock when the kids were having their midday nap. And then I would work again from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Do not recommend at all, but it worked for a restricted period of time. And it helped me to understand when is actually my most productive time of the day. So the time between 1 and 3 o'clock, I should not be working then. Like, not my best work is being produced in that time slot, because like my body just doesn't want it. And like giving this flexibility for a company to experiment with different things so that people can experiment with different things. Like, do this once a year, like it can do a lot of good for the productivity of your company.
I think I was really impressed about the first point about having a one-to-one and committing to those one-to-one, because lots of time this overtime comes on the back of your manager promising to their manager or promising to client, and you end up working harder.
Yeah.
How would you suggest in terms of having those one-to-ones? Was that 2 weekly, monthly? And also, would you suggest about team members having one-to-one with the manager of the manager? Because
skip one-on-ones, basically. So if you are a remote company, one-on-ones should happen either once a week or every second week, and that depends a little bit on the seniority of the person. If you are in similar time zones, make them a call, like talk in the same, like together. If you are in different time zones, you can also do like chat one-on-ones. If you're interested in that, let me know. I have resources about that. One-on-ones. So everything that is work-related and that is visible somewhere doesn't need to be part of a one-on-ones. If you can just look at the Kanban board, like you don't need your employee to read out the Kanban board for you. Like you're very capable of doing that yourself. So what you would do to prepare for the one-on-one is just looking at the work that they've done and write down a couple of notes where you might not understand where this came from or where you feel they are like going into the wrong direction. And then in the one-on-one, you address this. But the biggest part of one-on-ones is creating a relationship of trust and having this half an hour, 45 minutes every week where the employee knows if something comes up, I am not interrupting to ask a question. I'm not interrupting to sharing my situation. I am talking to you because this is my time, which means you can use that one-on-one to also work on different things. So, for example, I worked with an employee on their ability to say no, because they were completely overwhelmed all the time with work because they would never say no. So during our one-on-ones, we together read a book, which probably was called The Power of Saying No or something like this. And then every week we would discuss one chapter and we would look into, okay, so how can you implement what you've learned this week? And then next week you tell me the 3 things you have said no to this week. How did it feel? How did you handle it, etc. So you can use that time to actually kind of coach this person to be better. And for that, you need continuity, and you need more than once per month. 1 per month is probably not enough. And then for skip one-on-ones, I recommend to have them once a year or twice per year. That depends really on the size on the company, because if like the skip one-on-one puts you 15 more one-on-ones into your calendar, you cannot do this more than once a year. And you may not be able to do it with everyone, in which case you can still say, okay, I have open office hour every Friday from, I don't know, 3 to 5. You can book yourself in my calendar if you want to speak, to kind of flip the, I am available, but I don't have the time to actually accommodate for everyone, so whoever wants to speak can speak. They can be very insightful, the skip one-on-ones. Oh, one question you should ask in your one-on-ones, once every 6 months or so. I think I said that yesterday as well. Are there any rumors I should be aware of? Very important. Then you don't say anything until the other person speaks. Might take 3-4 minutes. Fascinating.
Other mic, final question. Ivan.
Hey, great talk, by the way.
Thank you.
So as an intro, moms get stuff done in time, and that's amazing. So a different question. A male colleague, he is in his 40s, about to get his first child. The whole company is remote. I'm thinking about getting an office only for him next to his house and move him there.
Yeah.
How do you do it politely and without tensions?
I would tell him, look, we have this policy that if you have children in your life, you might need a space that isn't disrupted by children, so we are happy to offer you this option of having a co-working or an office close to, and have him decide whether this is something he wants or not. Because very often at the beginning they say, that's not a big deal. Like, don't worry, I can work while they sleep. Yeah, good luck. Because then who does the household? And tell him, this is an open offer. You don't need to take it now. If you want to take it 8 months from now when your child starts to move around, do it then. And if he doesn't want to, I moved to a standing desk when my kids started walking so that they couldn't reach the keyboard. Works too. Okay?
Your ladyship. Empress Valentina, thank you.
Thank you very much.